Yo, first up, love the artwork on the boxes, so props to whoever did that. And today we have two RAMA cars which are currently on pre-order, ending on the 31st, so nice and tight on timing again. I have the Sawyer and Ice versions, and these are prototype units, so things may change for the final, but probably not much because this is slated to be delivered in Q1 of 2021, so if you want some quick turnaround mech stuff, then this may interest you. In the typical RAMA WORKS fashion, we get the nice box for the keyboard and another box for the accessories. We get the classic RAMA stickers, always nice, a key switch puller, a 1.5 meter USB-C cable and a bunch of screws and tools, our long rubber feet, and the PCB. I was also given the internal dampener, which is not included with the board, but is an additional $45, which is a decent chunk of money for a silicone piece, and we'll check that out later. Alrighty, here's the Sawyer case with this creamy color and clear backplate. This is injection molded ABS plastic, just like most of your keycaps and probably most plastic products you have around. We're seeing a couple of injection molded plastic custom mechs coming up as kind of cheaper alternative and just a different kind of keyboard, which is cool to see. Here's the iced version. The RAMA WORKS branding is actually visible on the bottom, unlike the Sawyer one. And another thing of note is that all the standoffs and screw holes are metal inserts instead of just tap plastics, so they should be pretty durable. Here's the 1.5mm polycarbonate plate, which is the default plate. However, there is also an aluminium plate available, but it is not an option that you can change to, rather it is another add-on. Alrighty, let's take this thing apart. There's 4 Torx screws in the corners. Beautiful custom screws, by the way, just like with their other boards. And then in the top housing, we can remove the backplate. And this is yet another piece that you can swap out with other colors to spice it up a bit and make it your own. And this is an integral part of the board and is quite unique actually in how the keyboard itself is mounted. Here's the Kara PCB designed by the ever dependable Wilbur, and there is just one version with Kale hot swap sockets in the HHKB layout, so no other layouts available and no solderable version. It supports 5-pin MX style switches, of course, has perky Rgb backlighting as we can see, and hanging off of it is the USB-C daughter board. And first thing as always is to install the stabilizers. These are not included with a kit, however they do sell a Kara starter kit which includes the required stabilizers and some switches, but yeah, you only need 2 2U stabs and 1 7U stab. And of course, make sure you lube them up nicely. Then we install our standoffs which fasten the PCB to the plate, and this is just to give it more support because it is a hot swap board and I'm sure they want to reduce potential issues. However, it isn't totally necessary as the switches can hold everything in place just with friction, but I'm going to use them though, but in theory, by using them you'll make it stiffer and therefore potentially harder and a little harsher in sound and feel. Then we install our mute piece, which is a piece of silicone that goes between the PCB and the plate, and this is necessary for the build as it is integrated with a mounting, just like a bunch of their other boards, which is pretty unique. It's not just like an optional mid layer, which also has its downside as you don't have that option to leave it out and give the plate more give, but that's the special thing about it. Okay, switches. Let's go with Kiwis for tactile and OAs for linear. 1 tactile, 1 linear. These are both JWK switches, so pretty common and easily obtained. The OA or original aspiration switches come in this really cool package, really cute stickers as well, love stuff like this. And these are completely unlubed, so I lubed them with some good old Krytox 205 grade 0 and used 0.8mm laser ninja film, so that should make them nice and smooth and dampened. The Kiwis are also 67 gram but are tactiles, and I lubed them with some Tribosis 3203, which is a thinner lube and is often preferred in order to keep the tactility of the switch nice and strong. As always with hot swap builds, it is of utmost importance to make sure that the pins are straight, otherwise you run the risk of damaging or breaking the hot swap sockets or switches, so just be careful and be gentle. In the official build guide video, they do say to put the keycaps on, so I'll do that. Classic, thanks to my buddy Jono for letting me borrow the keycaps as always, legend. And keep in mind for this sort of layout, you will need some sort of proper extended set because like a cheap basic 108 kit won't fit. So 7U spacebar, 1.7U right shift, and all that sort of stuff, so double check. Alright, so we have the top piece and we just push the sub-assembly into it and it'll also kind of snap into place. And we can kind of see again that the silicone piece is touching the plastic. But then we grab the back plate and here we can clearly see that this basically presses down on the silicone piece and that's what holds everything in place. And I'm just going to assume that the bottom piece applies some pressure for the lower bit. But yeah, it's that unique mounting system that these RAMA boards have. It's not like a gasket mount, the plate isn't screwed to anything and it's mainly attached via the silicone piece, but it's still only just extending past the plate and PCB, so it's not like really flexible or anything like a leaf spring mount or something. I received the silicone dampener, so I'm going to use it and it will add another 104 grams and supposedly helps with the board's acoustics. I'll do sound tests with and without, so we'll see. Before using the board, I'm just going to change a few things in VIA where it is fully programmable, which is especially important for this kind of board. And you have several layers to play around. First, I'll change the intense RGB lighting, then chuck in caps lock because caps lock is best. I also chucked in a Windows key in there after. And you should test beforehand, but because of lazy, I don't. My K key isn't working, so we have to pull it out, and it's just a bent pin. I use tweezers just to straighten it, and you can put it back in. And here it is, the RAMA WORKS Kara. And it's bringing the plastic aesthetic to the familiar bowl designs, very similar to the M60A on the outside, of course having the same HHKB layout, although now we have the sloping sides, which still maintains that thick look. It's available in a few different colors. I have the Sawyer and Ice versions. It's interesting with plastic, and I guess it depends on what you want out of it in terms of looks. The Sawyer version has this quite pleasant creamy off-white color, which I like, and some of you may prefer that opaque look. The Ice version, on the other hand, being translucent, has a completely different vibe to it, as we can see through it, and it accentuates the plastic. We see the injection molding, all the ribbing, support, standoffs, all that cool stuff. We can also see the RAMA WORKS branding on the bottom, which isn't visible on the opaque cases. And if you don't have the internal silicone dampener, then you'll see the PCB too, which is pretty cool. The other thing that translucent cases display is the RGB lighting. There are no underglow LEDs, these are all upwards facing in-switch LEDs, but with a clear plate too, it shines pretty bright, but only above the PCB, which does present an interesting look. Everywhere else is pretty much dark. Personally, I do prefer the translucent cases, and the other ones look really cool. Also, the Ice is pretty far off the rendered version, which looks quite a bit less frosted, I guess. It's definitely more white in real life, but they do show that with their color samples. One of the defining features of the Kara is, of course, the layout, and there's only one version of it. It's a hot swap board too, so no variations in the layout is possible. And this is definitely something that you will have to take into account. Everyone is different and everyone has different use cases and such, and it's definitely a layout that you can try and eventually adapt to. And this is and has been a very popular layout for a lot of people. However, it's obviously not for everyone. Even a normal 60% isn't for everyone, and I personally struggle without dedicated arrow keys and all that, but This is more specialized as we have the corner blockers and therefore no corner control keys, which takes a bit of getting used to. And because I'm special, I need my caps lock, so I've relegated the control key to the bottom corner. It adopts a split backspace, which is also very popular, and that actually does make sense. Gives us an extra key while bringing backspace closer. Remember that this is all programmable via VIA, and that you can have multiple layers with secondary functions and all that. So obviously to access like the function row and the arrow keys, you gotta have those combo presses. So yeah, it's all personal, and if you haven't used something like this, then it will take time. That's natural. I do advise having an open mind when it comes to new layouts. I always get comments that immediately shut down some sort of aspect of a board without trying it. But for me, it's just far from what I prefer. I mean, I basically use a full size as my daily, but that's just me. Alrighty, now to the typing experience. Let's have a quick listen. I recorded both boards with and without the internal dampener. The OA linear board, another JWK linear, and after looping they feel nice and smooth as per usual, although whether it be the spring or the unwiped bottom housing, I'm not sure I enjoy them as much as a typical JWK linear. They feel and sound a little flat. The Kiwi tactile board, a C3 JWK switch, a strong but rounded tactile bump, nice and pronounced. Remember, full plastic case and plate here, and you can definitely feel and hear that. It's got a pretty pleasant bottom out, not too soft or too thocky or anything, but not too harsh or stiff. It doesn't have that density and tightness of like an alu board, so it has a bit of depth, that plasticky feel. It'll be interesting to see how the alu plate feels, and as we can see there's some give around the middle, but because of its design where it's being held along the top and along the bottom, the sides can be pressed down quite a bit, but I didn't feel that impacted on the typing experience. And that translates to the sound as well. It's quite a loud board and you can hear that plastic nature, and it does spill out onto the desk a bit, so the table will matter a bit more with this board. And don't confuse this with like a high pitched sounding board that's a different kind of loudness. I just feel this outputs more sound but is relatively lower pitched. Some may be skeptical of the internal dampener, but it actually makes a difference, and it just tightens that sound up a little bit, reduces the reverb, makes it slightly quieter, filling in some of that empty space along with its wavy design. From what I can hear in the sound tests, it doesn't make a huge difference with the linears, still noticeable, but with the tactiles being a louder and more forceful switch, you can definitely hear a solid difference. The spacebar especially sounds a little less hollow, and again, just overall it sounds more dense and tight. Personally, I do prefer how it sounds with the dampener, but that's the thing with this board, and it depends on how you view it. It is a cheaper alternative to a RAMA custom, starting at 160 USD, so 45 bucks seems like a larger chunk of money relative to the board. And don't forget you will require stabs, switches and keycaps to finish it off, so it's still a premium sort of product. But but I definitely feel that the board keeps that RAMA quality and feel. Again, the exterior design is very similar to the M68, but in plastic form. Over time, I've really come to appreciate lighter boards. Like, heavy boards are amazing and they naturally exude quality, but after a while when you come to a light board, you honestly do appreciate just how easy it is to move around, even just from the desk to the shelf. I think out of the recent injection molded customs, this one first of all looks fantastic, but the feel is quite good. I felt that the NK65 is nice, but it's not too far off typical pre-builts that you can buy. The mute mounting system is interesting here, especially the way that they've had to do it with this board. I haven't seen anything really like it before, so I like how it feels, how it sounds, but yeah, the only thing really is the layout is not for me personally. The RAMA is closing on the 31st, but probably the thing that will tempt a lot of people is that quick Q1 turnaround, so that's pretty sweet. Won't need to wait that long. I think the price is fair. Adding extras makes it a little pricey, and I think the internal dampener is beneficial, but that's up to you. I will be modding these and giving them away to the Australian and Philippine mech communities for the new year, so if you're a part of those, watch out for that.